Well, now we're going to just go ahead and get started, and we're going to do the same procedure. It's the same exact procedure as we did before with the 6,000. We're going to do the same with the 8,000. I'm going to change my pad. Note, I put a 6 on it for 6,000 grit. And I'm going to grab my pad labeled 8 for 8,000 grit. I'm going to center the pad on here because they're turning at such a high RPM. It's imperative you make sure it's in the center. That way, it's not going to come flying off. I'm going to wet the surface and wipe it back down just to try to cool it a little bit, because it does get quite hot. Now I'm going to dampen the surface. I'm going to dampen my pad, and I'm going to apply some 8,000 grit to the surface. Remember, you don't need a lot depending on what you're doing. So if you put too much on, you can actually burn the compound, which isn't going to do you any good. Once again, season the pad and get the slurry over the top. Remember, we're looking for a toothpaste-like consistency, even over the surface that needs to be polished. It's starting to get thick now, so I'm going to dial down my polisher like I did before, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. You can hear it groaning because it's just getting started on the polishing process. At this point, I'm going to turn it up. And as you can see, it's not throwing a lot of compound. I'm going to wet the surface to keep the pad cool. At this point, I'm going to clean off the points where the compound is caked up so that I can facilitate a better polish and making sure that I hit all the area so I have a nice uniform polish on the surface. Notice we have a little fissure right there. And that compound will come out with the nylon brush. I'm going to wet the surface, wet the pad, and I'm going to do this again. concludes 8,000. We're done. Well, as you can see, we've concluded with the 8,000 grit. We have, for all essential purposes, we've achieved the factory finish at this point. You can see the middle where we started, what we started with, what we've ended with, and the factory finish over here, the scratch as reference. So we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and do 14,000. A lot of instances, you know, we really don't even need to go to the 14,000. 8,000 is more than sufficient. On occasion with certain stones, it is necessary that you go to the 14,000 just to match the factory finish. But as you can see on Ubatuba, very difficult stone, 8,000, we've already matched it. So we're going to go ahead and do the 14 and see what we come up with. So once again, I'm just going to change my pad real quick. I'm going to take my pad, which has been numbered 14 for 14,000. I'm going to put my pad on here. This is a brand new pad, so it's, you know, we're going to have to season it once again like the rest of them. I'm going to dampen the surface, dampen my pad. I'm going to wipe the surface off again. We really want to make sure that you remove the grits from the previous polishing steps so that we're getting the full effect of the next step. Dampen the surface. I'm going to agitate my 14 a little bit just to make sure the compounds are blended. And I'm going to add a little bit there to it. And once again, it's the same procedure. Rub it around, blend the water and the compound to generate a paste. And once again, we're going to start at a low speed, and then we'll work ourselves back up to a higher speed for this application. It's getting tacky now, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it on. The pad is really grabbing now, so you want to hang on to the head of your machine. We're really achieving the wet look now. this is becoming so polished that when I put water on it, it beads up and actually rolls off. Well, that concludes the 14,000 grit, and I have to say I believe it's sharper than the original factory finish. But let's clean it up and check it out. As you can see, we have brought this stone back on this side with the Polishing Pro systems. As a demonstration piece, you can see the scratch is still across the center. The haze line from where we were working the stone to get it to the point where we could polish the system, and the factory finish. You too will be able to accomplish this following simple steps.